open this. 3 letters, each one rescheduling an appointment she never made. The third letter told her what would happen if she didn't attend. She went. The building existed. The appointment was kept. And what she learned there explained 10 years of decisions she thought she had made alone. She had not been alone. Don't ignore any letters that arrive for you tonight. It is time for chapter 147. Most decisions feel like our own, the particular weight of choosing one direction over another, the sense of agency that comes from believing the choices we make belong entirely to us. But occasionally, someone looks back across a significant stretch of their life and notices a pattern in their decisions that feels less like their own judgment and more like something else entirely. A consistent nudge in a specific direction. Choices that seemed independent but pointed in retrospect toward a single destination. She had noticed this pattern before the letters arrived. The letters simply told her where to go to discuss it. A woman received the first letter on an ordinary morning, formal in appearance, her name and address correct, an appointment listed, date, time, and address in a part of the city she didn't know well. No explanation of purpose, no name or organization in the header, simply the appointment details and a polite expectation of attendance. She set it aside, assuming it was misdirected. The second letter arrived 2 weeks later, same appointment rescheduled to a new date. A brief additional line noting that the previous date had passed without her attendance. The third letter arrived a week after that. Same appointment rescheduled again, and this time several paragraphs explaining, specifically and accurately, what would follow if she continued not to attend. The paragraphs in the third letter described consequences she found difficult to dismiss, not threats exactly, simply detailed and accurate descriptions of what her life would look like if certain things were not discussed in person. The accuracy was what stopped her. Details about her life that a misdirected letter could not have contained, specific enough to suggest genuine knowledge of her circumstances. She looked at the address again, looked it up. The building existed. An ordinary building in an ordinary part of the city. No signage she could find. No information about who occupied it. She went on the rescheduled date, found the building, found the floor listed in the letter, found a door, knocked. If these stories have found their way to you, if you find yourself returning to this quiet room, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. It tells me, and whatever else watches from this room, that you were here and that you intend to find your way back. If you have a story of your own, Granny is always listening, watching, waiting. The room beyond the door was simply furnished. A table, 2 chairs, someone already seated on the far side, who looked up when she entered with the expression of someone who has been waiting, genuinely waiting, not impatiently, for a meeting they scheduled a long time ago. She sat. The person across the table said her name, said they had been hoping she would come, said there were things to discuss that would make more sense in person than in letters. She asked who they were. They said that was one of the things to discuss. She asked what they wanted. They said they didn't want anything. They had simply been helping for approximately 10 years and had thought it was time she knew. Shakkoi, that word, helping. Cold in the way of realizing something has been inside your decisions for a decade without your knowledge. I wonder, have you ever made a decision that felt like yours but left you uncertain afterward whether it truly was? A choice that seemed to come from somewhere slightly outside your own judgment? Perhaps you have been helped in ways you were never told about. If you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening. The conversation lasted 2 hours. She told me very little of what was said most of it was private, specific to her circumstances, not something that translated usefully to telling. What she did share was the shape of it, 10 years of significant decisions reviewed together. The job she had taken that had led to the life she now had, the relationship she had ended at exactly the right moment, the city she had moved to, the apartment she had found. Each one, as described across the table, had been arrived at with assistance she had not known was there. Guidance that had worked through the available options and ensured she moved in the right direction. Without her awareness, without her consent. You are still here. Good. Some stories need a witness all the way to the end. I wonder if you discovered that your most significant decisions had been shaped by something you were unaware of. Would you be grateful? Or would something about the helping feel like the wrong kind of wrong? She left the building 2 hours after she entered, stood on the street outside for a while, then walked to a nearby park and sat for a long time, thinking about 10 years of decisions, about the job and the relationship and the city and the apartment, about whether the life she was living was hers, about whether that question meant something different now than it would have meant before she kept the appointment. She told me she had reached a conclusion by the time she left the park, had decided something about how she felt about the helping. She would not tell me what the conclusion was, said it was private, said only that she had not gone back to the building and that she had not received any further letters. I think about the decisions that shape a life. Most of us understand them as our own. The particular weight of choosing, the sense of agency that comes from believing the direction we move in belongs to us. But I think about what it would mean to discover that the most significant of those decisions had been arrived at with assistance, that something had been working through the available options for a decade, ensuring a particular outcome. Not maliciously, simply helping, as it apparently understood helping, and I think the question of whether that helping was a kindness or a violation is not as simple as it first appears, because the life it helped build was by all accounts a good one, and the person living it had not known, and now she did. Duh. Some things are better understood slowly. I have had considerable time to understand this particular one. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If letters arrive for appointments you never made, read them carefully before setting them aside. If they reschedule, read them again. And if a third letter arrives with specific and accurate details about your own life and what follows from not attending, consider going, because whatever has been waiting for that meeting has been patient enough to write 3 times, has been accurate enough to demonstrate genuine knowledge, and has been working, apparently, on your behalf for longer than the letters suggest. The appointment is not a threat. It is an explanation. And explanations, even ones that arrive after 10 years of decisions you thought were entirely your own, are worth sitting across a table for. Even if what you learn there takes a long time to make peace with, in a park, on an ordinary afternoon, after the most unusual appointment you have ever kept. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting. And if you wish others to find their way here too, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. I would not object. And if you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening.